Okay, a second. For some reason that's jumping off. There it is. I've got my teacher device and I've actually got my student device on here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a few things that are actually possible on your devices. So the first one is obviously if you've got a student device and you're actually moving things around on your student device, normally what you actually see is the back of that screen. Okay, and when you actually just see the back of the screen as a teacher, you haven't got a clue what's actually going through your devices at the moment. Okay, so what I need to do is make sure that the teacher can see that. Now, Apple have come up with something called Apple Classroom. Okay, and I'm going to show you this because it's free for your devices. It doesn't need an MDM to be set up for it. You can actually do this with any device you want. So this is the little app on here. This one here that says Apple Classroom. If we just click on that, I've gone into a class. I'll just open up the class so I can show you it. So I've just gone into a class in here. And in there, I've got my one student device that I've actually got there. So this one here is my one student device. Now, if I'm going to just look at that student device, at the moment, if I go onto my student device and I go onto the clock, I can see straight away on my teacher device that that student has gone into the clock. Now, that's really good and powerful for me. So I know that whether my students are actually on the right app at the right time. So even though I can't see the screen, I can actually see that they're on the right app. If they decide to come off that one and they actually go to another screen, say they go to, for instance, Safari, okay, say they go to Safari like such. If they do something like that, I can tell that they're on Safari as well. So that's really simple by just looking at this icon. Now, that isn't enough because Safari doesn't show me what that app is looking at because it just tells me that they're on Safari. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this button at the top up here that says Screens. And what it now does on my teacher device is shows me literally the app that I'm going to. So this is a really nice, powerful way of being able to see what's going on all the devices. And I'm only showing you this because it's really powerful once you've got devices in your hand that you can actually see what's going on with the learning journeys that your students are doing. So that's one quick way. The other thing I can actually do from here is I can open up any app on the device that I want to by just clicking a couple of buttons. I can open up anything on these devices. So literally by pressing open, I maybe want to go to the calendar. I can open up the calendar on here and so onwards. And that will work with all the 30 devices that I've got in my classroom and so onwards. So very quickly, we can manipulate all of the student devices into what we want. But that's me just showing you a little bit of the management bit of this, because again, the devices that you're using, you can use so much more from what's actually there. So if you're just using your devices, maybe there's a little bit of a research tool. Maybe we can actually show you a bit more in this session about what you can actually do with these. I've just shown you I can watch now what the students are doing, which is really powerful. But I can also do things like this one, which is obviously lock. I can lock that device and it stops the student actually doing anything else. So very quickly, I can lock it. We can actually do something different. And it means that the student has to pay me attention because they can't get into that device. So that's nice and simple. I'm just going to unlock that device again, and then I'm going to change this over so I can actually just use one screen. Okay, so let's get into you doing a little bit more work, because again, I've just showed you just something very simple. I'm going to get into showing you a little bit more work. So I'm just going to pull my second device up here, and I'm going to actually just show you the whole screen. So literally, we've got my iPad device, and I want to show you a few things that are actually possible with actually doing with your iPad. So again, if you've got your iPad in front of you, and hopefully you all have, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to show you some tips and tricks to do things. Now, the first thing to actually think about is if you're actually got as many apps as I have on my device. I've got, I think, around about 500 apps on this device at the moment. If you've got around about that sort of apps on here, and especially if you've got them in folders. So again, here I've got obviously folders with all my Google things in and all the Microsoft things in. And again, if you're using iPads, Microsoft and Google work really well on your iPad, so you can use all of those. If you're into your Adobe things, Adobe has a whole range of apps that you can use on here as well. So no matter which system that you're using for your email system and so onwards, we can actually do all of that on your iPads. But again, like I said, if you're trying to search for something on your iPad, then what I want to do is I want to show you that this is really easy. So again, what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to use one finger, and I'm going to ask you just to pull down the middle of your screen. Now, if you pull down the middle of your screen, okay, you will get what's called an omnibox search. So this omnibox search there, okay, so in this with this omnibox search in there, what you can actually do is search for any app that's on your device. Okay, so let's just do that again. If you go from the top of your screen, you pull down what's called a notification center. But if you pull down the middle of your screen, you pull up this search bar. Okay, if you type something in there, so let's put in settings, so SET. Okay, so if you put in settings, you'll see that this pulls up all of the apps beginning with the word SET or has SET in it. So you can actually see all of those in there. Now again, not only will it actually search that, it'll also search everything else that's on your device. So it'll search up anything you've got the word set in. If you put in anything with the word obs in, it will search for anything with observations in, and so onwards. So this search tool is really, really powerful. But as I said, what you can actually do is find apps really quickly. So instead of being sat in front of your students and going, I'll just search for this, wait a second, I'll find it in a second. Instead of doing that, we just pull one finger down the middle of our screen, type in the word cam, and you can search for the camera. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to search for the camera. So just put one finger down, search for the camera, and we're going to do something quickly on our cameras, and we're going to do something a little bit creative. So very quickly, just search for the word cam and open your camera. Okay, so once we've got your camera open, what we're going to do is we're going to start taking a picture. Now, I don't mind what you take a picture of, but we're going to animate this picture. Okay, so again, if you want to take a picture, I've got my computer screen here, so you can see my computer screen, computer screen, and computer screen. Okay, so I've got different things that maybe we want to take a picture of. I could take a picture of my iPad and make this a little bit more realistic. Okay, so maybe I'm going to take a picture of my iPad. You can take a picture of yourself if you really want to do a selfie. And I know people really love taking selfies. So if you really want to take your selfie, then you're quite welcome to do that. Okay, obviously, if you want to take a selfie, you're going to use the button above the white button, which actually flips your camera around. So hopefully there's me. Okay, so we can take our selfie. So literally remembering that there's a few things on your iPad you need to know. So opposite where your home button is, you need to go opposite to that. And what you've got is your first FaceTime camera. So it's opposite the home button, and it's your first FaceTime camera. So if you need to look into there, press the white button, you can take your selfie. Okay, so have a go at doing that first, and you should get your selfie in that right-hand side underneath the white button. Now, the white button means you're taking a picture. Okay, and there's quite a few pictures in there you can actually use. You can use different versions in there. But again, the top one, if you go to video, the next thing in there is the video turns to red. So just making sure you're aware that the red button means you're on video, the white button means you're on a photo. So you know exactly before you do anything else what your students can do. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to play around with this picture to do a little bit with it. So hopefully on the right hand side you've taken your picture. So on this right hand side over here, oops, I can't do it that way. Okay, so right hand side there, you should have your picture. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap that picture and it's going to open up into my photos. Okay, hopefully everyone's on that. So in my photos here now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this photo and I'm going to do some drawings on it. Okay, so if you're at the top, you can see the word edit. If you tap that edit button, there is a few tricks in here that maybe you want to use. So down the left-hand side, you've got this dial, you've got a Venn diagram, and you've also got one that looks a bit like a hashtag sort of thing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to crop the picture first. So we're going to use that hashtag. If you just tap that hashtag on the left-hand side, you can now crop your picture as you want. Okay, so all you're going to do is just crop your picture in over, like such. Okay, just going to crop your picture in over like such. And then what you can actually do is once you've got your picture like that, we can actually use that picture in a little bit more. Okay, if you need to, the one thing that people don't remember is at the top of here, you've got two icons. One flips your picture from left to right horizontally, And the other one rotates your screen. Okay. Okay, so we rotate your screen like such, and it will actually turn it 90 degrees all the time. Now that's really important because a lot of apps don't let you actually turn that around. Okay, so a lot of apps won't let you actually turn that around from there and so onwards. Okay. So what I need to do now is I need to actually go to the next button, and the next button is the Venn diagram above it. So if I actually tap on that Venn diagram, what I can now do is change my picture into all of these different filters on the right hand side. Now, if I actually just slide up, I can get this down to a black and white filter, which is really great if you want to change, say you're doing some poetry and you want to do, you're on, say it's Halloween and you're doing some Halloween poetry or something like that. Then what you can do is you can take your picture into black and white and make it look a lot more spooky, and maybe read all the things through on an iMovie or something like that, which really brings the poem to life. But you can actually make the pictures something that you want and actually change around. So very quickly, we can put that in black and white. Okay, and the next one is the next button I'm going to use, which is the top 3 dots in the top right-hand corner. So if you look at the top right-hand corner and you tap on those 3 dots, what you've now got is a markup tool. Okay, and if you actually just tap on that markup tool, what we've actually got is some pens at the bottom where we can actually draw our pictures. Okay, so now we can actually draw some pictures. So now we can actually make us look a little bit more funky with some different colors. So again, if I just tap one of the pens, what you actually see is the top line is the different thicknesses of your pen. The line underneath is actually what the opacity is of that pen and whether you can see through it and so onwards. Okay, so it's literally up to you what you want to do with here. If you want to change the color, okay, just tap on one of the colors and you'll see that that pen's changed color. Okay, so what we can now do is we could actually maybe draw some different bits on our hair. We can actually draw some different like colored glasses on and certain things like that. And what I want you to do is I just want you to have a little play. Use the different highlighters and see what you can actually do with these different highlighters. Pinch in and zoom in on your picture and actually just get used to actually using your iPad to be a little bit more creative as you wish. Don't forget to actually look at the opacity as well. So actually bring down that opacity if you need to. Okay, I'm just going to change this. Bring down the opacity if you need to, change the color. And then what we can actually do is maybe we can see through that a little bit more. If you can see on mine, you can see my eye a little bit more on there because I've made the opacity a little bit more. So you can actually see the differences. So have a play with that. If you need to rub anything out, use the rubber and so onwards. So have just about a minute or so to actually have a play around, just doing a little bit of your drawing and so onwards. Okay, hopefully you're finding that really easy. Now, obviously, I'm not just looking at drawing and pictures and so onwards, but the idea is this could be a picture that you've taken of maybe, say, some plants or some trees outside, and you need to label the parts. Well, now you've got a pen on a photo that you can actually write on. Okay, so very easily we can now do a little bit of investigation outside, just taking a picture, drawing something on it, labeling up the petals and the stalks and the stem and everything else. We can do all of that sort of work in a very simple thing just by taking pictures. Okay, or how about we actually get the children to do a piece of writing in their books and they take a picture of that. So say they were doing that at home and they take the picture and send it to you. You can now actually underline it and mark it and do all of the bits that you want to, show the spelling mistakes and everything else, because you can write straight on the picture and send it back again. So in a very simplistic terms, just with the skills that you've learned now, you can do some assessment and feedback and markup. Okay, so nice and simple. That's a simple way of actually using that technique. We've also got things in here where we've actually got selection tools where we can start moving things around, so you can actually take things off your pictures. You've also got a ruler in here, and if you wanted to measure certain things to see if they're actually the right angles, you could actually maybe draw an angle. Let's just make that a little bit thicker so you can see this a little bit better. I could actually draw, say, for instance, a line here, and then I can move my angle again to a 64-degree angle, and I can draw my line again. and I know that that angle now is at 64 degrees. I could use that somewhere else I needed to. So just using my ruler, I can make some really accurate angles that the children can now measure with their protractors, and that will work out to be 64 degrees. So things like that are really simple and easy for you to make your own worksheets and so onwards. Or maybe you take a picture of something and then work out, well, is that at the right angle? Well, no, that's 84 degrees. It isn't at 90 degrees, which is what I think it should be, and so onwards. You can measure those angles as well, just using this technique. So again, just tap the ruler, we can get rid of it. I'm just going to show you a couple more things on here. I'm going to go to the add button at the end. So at the button at the bottom, you've got the add button. In here, we've got some text, signature, magnifier, and some shapes. So again, I could add some shapes onto here if I really wanted to. I'm not going to do that. I can add text. So if I wanted to add text on there, I can add text, and you can see this little text button here. If I double tap in it, I can now write the words, and I'm going to put just "this is me." Okay, so I'm just going to put in the word "this is me" and so onwards. Once I've got the text open, my toolbar changes, and I've got these different colors. So maybe I want to change the color of my text. Maybe I want to actually make the text a bit bigger. So if I use the A button, I can make my text a bit bigger, and then maybe drag it onto my page a bit more, and I can play around with this as I want. So now if I don't want to use my writing, I can actually put text in as well. If I now press the add button again, the other one I'm just going to show you is the magnifying glass. And maybe I want to magnify my eye in here, and you can see I can now magnify in my eye and so onwards, and I can actually have a look at different parts of my anatomy and so onwards. But again, it might be the case that we're doing this with the plants again, and we're going to zoom in a certain part. Or maybe I'm looking at a bit of artwork, and I want to zoom in a little bit of part of that artwork, and then I can actually use the magnifying glass to do that. Or let's take it into geography. Let's say that you want to show where your school is in the United Kingdom, or the town that you're in. Okay, you can use this to zoom into that area, showing where everything is on there. So nice and simple, just in the Photos tool. I'm not using anything else at the moment. Just in that Photos tool, I've been able to do a lot of different things. Okay, so all we're going to do now is we're going to press the Done button in the top right-hand corner, and you've got your picture. We're going to press Done again, and your picture is saved there. Okay, so very quickly you've got your picture saved. If you don't like it and you want to get back to the beginning, all you do is you press the Edit button, and in your top right-hand corner, you have this Revert button. And if you press Revert, it takes you back to the original picture, so you haven't actually lost anything. So really quickly and easily, we've been able to manipulate pictures, being able to manipulate what we actually do and put it into something different. Okay, so let's see if we can do one of our first tricks. Okay, now, normally I would ask you to press the home button to actually come out of this app, but I'm not going to do that for this one. Okay, I'm going to ask you to put your whole hand up. I'm going to get your full hand, all 5 fingers. And what you're going to do is you're going to put that onto your screen, and you're just going to pinch. Okay, so put your whole hand on your screen and pinch your fingers together. And what that should do is it should take you back to your desktop. Okay, so once you're in an app, I'll just do that again. Once you're in an app, you just pinch your fingers together, and it should take you back to the desktop. So it's all 5 fingers, really quick and easy, should take you back to the desktop. Okay, so there's a nice little trick for you. Okay, so let's have a look a little bit on research. Okay, so there's a lot of the times iPads are used for research, and I'm going to show you how we can do this a little bit quicker. Okay, so again, we're going to use another app. Now, hopefully, a lot of you have Keynote on your devices. Okay, and I'm going to show you Keynote on here. If you haven't got Keynote, you can use Word, or you can use Docs. Okay, you can use Notes on your iPads as well. But again, I'm going to use Keynote for this version. If you pull one finger down, you can type in the word key, and you get Keynote. Now, Keynote is Apple's version of PowerPoint, for instance. Okay, it's a presentation tool that you maybe want to use. Okay, and it comes free with every device. Okay, so with every iPad that you buy, you actually get Keynote, you get Pages, which is actually a word processing tool. You get Numbers, which is a spreadsheet tool. You also get GarageBand, which is your music creation tool. You get iMovie, which is your video creation tool as well. So you get all of those free before you even start. So they're the sort of things that you can actually use in the Apple ecosystem. So if we've got Keynote, if we open up Keynote, okay, you should be looking something like this. If it's the first time you've ever been in Keynote, it will have a big welcome screen across the front. you just press continue at the bottom, and then there should be a create a presentation at the bottom on there. Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to do this as we're going along. If not, you can do exactly the same thing in Notes. Okay, so you can actually open up Notes and you can do exactly the same thing in Notes. So hopefully Notes is on your iPad and you can open up Notes and do the same thing in there. Okay, I'm going to use Keynote just for this instance so I can show you what we're going to do. Okay, so hopefully you've got Keynote on there. If you press the add button, you should be able to choose a create a presentation. Now the add button is either here or it's over here on the right hand side. Depending on which version of iOS you've got, it depends on whether yours looks like this or it looks like the next page I'm going to go to. Okay, if yours looks like mine, then just press on choose a theme, and what you should have is something looking like this. Okay, now these are all the different themes that you can use, and there's quite a lot of themes in your versions. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump onto the first basic white one. I'm not going to do anything really difficult. I'm just going to jump in the first basic white one on there, and I'm going to just open up my presentation. Okay, now in my presentation here, I want to be able to put the titles, and I want to show you a lot of things in here, a little bit of tips and tricks that we can actually use. So I'm going to do a presentation on the African jungle. So I'm going to do a little bit of research on the African jungle here, and I'm going to actually go through this version to show you what we can do. So where we've actually got the presentation title, I'm going to double tap in there, and I'm going to type in the word African jungle. Okay, so if you want to do this at the same time, then feel free. If not, like I said, if you're doing notes, you can do it on there as well. It's not a major issue either way. Okay, so we can actually put in African jungle in here. And if we wanted to, we can put our names, double tapping all the time to edit on an Apple device. Okay, we can put all of those things in there. Now, remember that if you want to do it, you can actually do all of these sort of things, and you can actually make, say if you make spelling mistakes. So if I make a spelling mistake on mine, so if I actually spell my name wrong, okay, so for instance, something like this, if I actually spell it wrong like such, okay, what I can actually do is obviously you can delete backwards. Okay, so obviously put the capital letters in there for me. But if I need to actually look through and find somewhere else, if I keep my finger on the space bar, then this actually works like a mouse. So if you type something wrong, okay, instead of having to delete everything through, you can put your finger on the space bar, move your finger around your iPad, and actually get behind the version you need, and then delete off what you need to do. Okay, so put your finger on space bar, turns into a mouse, and you can move this around. Okay, so just a nice little tip and trick for you there that we can actually use. Okay, so we've got our first page on here. We're going to actually look and see whether we can do a little bit of research. So if we press the add button in the bottom left hand corner, what we've actually got is all of our new slides. Now we're just going to add a blank slide. So very quickly, we're just going to add a blank slide to that, and we're going to try and find some animals. And we're just going to put some animals in here. I'm going to make this really simple and easy to start off with, because it's about iPad basics and about some of the things that we can do in here. So again, I've just added a brand new slide, just a blank slide, nothing on it. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to add some animals from the icons that we've got in here. So at the top right hand corner, I've got an add button. Okay, so the top right hand corner, we've got an add button. In here, I've got 4 columns. I've got my tables, I've got my charts, I've got my icons and shapes, and I've got everything else. Okay, so 4 different icons across the top. I want to go to the third one across, which is actually my shapes and icons and my text boxes. Now, we're going to add some animals into here. We're going to find some African animals. So maybe I'm going to find a lion. Okay, now if I actually just scroll through here, you'll see I can come to the animals and I can find the animals that are in here. Okay, and we can search through these and find a lion if we really wanted to, or maybe it's the zebra or the rhinoceroses, the giraffes, and so onwards. And all we need to do is we need to just tap them, pull them out, and we've actually got some very quickly. We're starting to put some sort of scene together that we maybe want. So maybe I might put in an elephant in there, and we'll have a different elephant in there, and so onwards. Okay, I think I might just add, let's see if I can add that lion in as well. Let's add the lion in as well. So we can actually have 3 different icons in here and our animals. Okay, so very quickly I can actually start to have a look at what our children are going to do with pictures, and maybe we want to name these. Now, if you were really observant in the very first place, you'll see that there's a little text in the very first basic one in here. Now, you would normally think that that's the only text box, but actually every single one of these are text boxes. So if I actually double tap in this lion, I can type the word lion in there, and I can actually have that coming in. So I can actually have the word lion in there. I can type the word elephant in here if I really wanted to. Okay. Or I can add maybe another shape in, and I can add the word lion in there. And now I've actually got a drag and drop activity. So now I've actually got a drag and drop activity that I can actually move things around and actually put the labels alongside each thing as I want to. So again, you can do loads of different options in here to actually create that around. Okay. But again, our lion we don't want black, and our elephant we don't want black as well. So let's have a look at just changing some of the things around and formatting our pictures. So again, to change our pictures, if you just tap on, say for instance, the elephant or whatever animal you put up there, tap on one of them, make sure those blue dots are around it. If you want to make it bigger, just pull one of the blue dots out. Don't pinch, because pinching just makes the screen bigger. Okay, so pull one finger down with the blue dots. That makes your picture bigger and so on. If you want to change it, then at the top there's this paintbrush. If you just tap on your paintbrush, you have three options. You have style, you have text, and you have a range. If you make sure you're on style, you have these different colors. But don't change everything with these colors, because they have a different thing with regards the style options that you can have in there, because it already has a text box changing for your fonts and so onwards. So if you really want to change this, change it around with this options of fill. So just tap the fill color. You've then got some presets that you can use. You've also got some colors that you can use in here, with including the droplet if you really want to. So you can pick a color from somewhere else. You've also got gradient in here. So if you do want to actually make this looking a little bit more funky, you can actually start changing your gradients around. And you can also change the image. So you can actually put an image behind it if you really wanted to as well. So now you can start playing around with your images to make sure that you've got the right color elephant in there. Okay, and maybe they change the other ones that are in there as well. So maybe I'm actually going to change my lion to be a bit more orangey and yellow. Okay, so maybe I'm going to do something like that. So this actually looks a little bit more like the colors I maybe want in there. So very quickly, we can now start to change around the colors of images. We can change the colors of text boxes. We can add our own text boxes and so onwards in a very simplistic way. So that's adding icons and shapes to our Keynote as it is. Okay, so I'm just going to jump back in there, because again, I went through all of these. There's absolutely loads of different images and so on in there. If you really want to search, there's a magnifying glass at the top, and you can search for which animal you want, and you can actually just pull that in. So very quickly, you can actually find all of these different things in a very simplistic terms. So you've got your search in there as well as everything else. Okay, so nice and simple, we've been able to put some animals in there. That's great. Okay, so it's great that we can actually do something simple. But let's take this to another level, because we don't just want to add animals from icons that we've actually got. We want to actually add them a little bit more from our Safari and do a little bit more research and so onwards. So let's add another page. So go down to the bottom left hand corner, press your add button, and add a blank page again. So now we've got another blank page in there. And this is where we're going to be a little bit more creative. So what I'd like you to do now, using one finger, you're going to slide up slowly from the bottom of your iPad, and you're going to pull up your toolbar. So one finger slowly from the bottom of your iPad, and you're going to pull up your toolbar. Now, depending on what your iPads look like, so some people that might be a little bit more difficult. Okay, so again, you either need to put your nail in to actually do it, or turn your iPad so you can actually have it in turn your iPad so it's actually in portrait mode, and where you've got the home button, just slide up from there and then turn it back into landscape mode, and you'll be able to do it. Once you've got it open like such, this toolbar at the bottom has some different points. Anything that's on the left hand side of this little line here is obviously things that always stay in your toolbar. Anything on the right hand side are your recent items. Okay, so anything recent comes in here. Anything that's always in there always stays here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of research. So we're going to go to Safari and we're going to do a little bit of research in this. So this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my finger on Safari and I'm going to keep my finger on Safari and I'm going to drag it to the right-hand side. So I'm going to keep my finger on Safari and I'm just going to pull it over to the right-hand side until it goes black. And when it goes black, I'm going to let go. And what we actually have now is something called a split screen. Okay, so now we've actually got a split screen. So I'm just going to do that again just so we can show you it again. So one finger up from the bottom, pull up the toolbar, put my finger on Safari, pull it across to the right-hand side, and we get what's called a split screen. We wait until it goes black on that right side. I'll do it once more. Pull it up slowly from the bottom, put my finger, keep it on Safari, pull it across, wait until it goes black, and let go. Okay, and what I've got, like I said, is this split screen. So now in here, I can search for African animals. Okay, so we can actually search for African animals. It will do our little bit of search. And maybe you want to go for some images in here, and I can actually find these nice images. So now I've actually got two things that work independently of each other. Okay, so very, very simple. We can start to do a little bit more research. So I've got my animals on one side. I maybe have the text there. I can now type on the left-hand side and type the text in there. So no longer am I trying to just pull up one thing. I've actually got both things working at the same time. But maybe I want to use some of these pictures. So some of these pictures that I've got here, maybe I want to use some of these pictures so I can actually use it in my presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap on one of these African animals. So this picture here, let's actually pick that one. So this picture here on the right-hand side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that picture. So on the right-hand side, I clicked on, at the top, I clicked on images. So that came up when I did my Google search. And then I've just tapped on one of the pictures and I have this image here on the right-hand side. What I really want is I want that into my presentation. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my finger on it. I'm going to wait until it jumps a little bit. And then I'm going to just drag it across and I'm just going to let go. And it's now in my presentation. So in a matter of seconds, I've been able to take something from the internet and put it straight into my presentation. So now I'm actually quickening up my learning process and quickening up my research and putting everything together so that the children can be a little bit more creative in this. Okay, so I've been able to get a nice simple images in there. Now I can actually do that with text as well, but I don't normally do it with text because again, when I talk to children, it's about copyright and it's about what you can actually do with these things. So very quickly, I've been able to put that in there. Okay, so if I manage to do that in a certain aspect, okay, maybe I want to get rid of this split screen, but just as another alternative, sometimes you actually might want a clock in there and a timer to actually use to tell your children this is how long you've got to do it. So again, I can actually just drag a timer in the same thing to actually show you what's actually in there. So just using the same technique. To change this over, you have three options. It can be 25-75, 50-50, 75-25, just pulling that grey line in the middle here. Okay, so just doing that, you can actually pull it across and get it to the reason you want. If you need to get rid of it, you just literally get hold of the grey line again and pull it off the screen. And then you're back to your presentation in a very simple and easy way. Okay, so this is how you can actually do a little bit more. But I want to show you some more different things that maybe we can actually do and actually bring a little bit more to your students. So let's add one more page. Okay, I'm just going to actually put some facts about the African jungle in now. So again, we're just 4 pages. We want to do our 4th page really, really quickly. I'm just going to add a text box. So I'm going to go straight to my basic and I'm just going to add a text box to my screen. And I'm just going to make it go down the side of my screen like such. Okay, now I'm going to type some things in here. Okay, so I'm going to actually put some information in from Safari. So I'm just going to go back to my Safari. So again, I'm just going to pull up. I'm going to pull back to Safari. Okay, and I'm just going to go back to all. And I'm just going to find some information in here about the animals in Africa. Okay, so let's just put this one. I think that's good enough. I might actually use this one. So this bit of information in here, I'm just going to actually put into that text box on the left-hand side. Now, I'm just going to change the text size. So I'm using that format button. I'm just going to change the text size just so you can read it. Okay, so on here, I've clicked the text box, I've clicked the format button, I've gone to text, and I've just made that text around about 50. Okay, so all I've done is I've just made it a little bit bigger, and then all I'm going to do is double tap it in that text box. Now, the reason why I've done this is because one of the problems that some of your children have is they can't type very quickly. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually type this without typing. So what I'm going to use is, when you've got your keyboard up, you should have this button here, which is Siri. Okay, so this little button here is Siri, and what we're going to use is we're going to use Siri as a dictation device. I'm going to read this out, and it's going to type it into here. But not only am I going to read it out, I'm going to add the punctuation in there as well. So it adds the punctuation into my whole paragraph. So let's have a go at doing this. Okay, so let's just press this Siri button, and then you can have a go in a minute. Africa is home to many of the world's most famous fauna in human culture, such as lions, rhinos, cheetahs, giraffes, hippos, leopards, zebras, African elephants, among many others, full stop. And what you can see there really quickly, if I just get rid of that one, what you can see there very quickly is it's actually typed all of that in very, very quickly for me. I can see that there's a spelling on cheetahs there wrong. So let's just click in there, use my space bar to get round to cheetahs, and then I can actually change that as well. Okay, so very quickly, I've only had to change one of these words around to actually put it in the right way. So you can get your children to actually type your text in very quickly. Now, not only can you get your children to type this, this is how I actually write my reports. So in literal terms, I actually just use this. I talk about it. When I get to the end of the line, I say new line. It just puts a new paragraph or whatever I need to do. I put in the spellings, I do all of the different bits. Then I go back and read it again and make sure my spelling's actually correct. But it saves me so much more time to actually just use Siri as a different device for me. So don't just think of this about things that can help your students. It's about things that can also help you and save you time. And these are the things that your device will do for you. Okay, with a little change in settings and so onwards, and I can't just show you this, but if I actually just double click on here and I actually let go, you can actually see that this will actually speak it to you as well. So some of the accessibility features in your iPad will allow this to read things back to you. So if your children can't actually read these things, okay, and you want it to read back to them, you can actually get it to read back to them. It won't come through on this device at the moment because I haven't got it set up that way, but this will actually speak these words back to you. Okay, so again, if you need that setting up, it's actually in your accessibility features, and you can actually have speak selection. So let's put that on. Okay, so let's put whole hand on your screen again. Just pinch your screen, go back to your front screen, and let's just set that up for you. And these are just different bits, different tricks that we can actually put in. Okay, one finger down, and this time we're going to type in set, and we're going to go to your settings. Okay, down the left-hand side, you've got some different options, and what you should see down there is an option that says accessibility. So down the left-hand side, you should see an option that says accessibility. If you tap on that one, on the right-hand side, you should see one that says spoken content. If you tap that one, on the right-hand side again, now you should have the top one that says speak selection. If you turn that on, you now have that speak option when you actually highlight any text. So no matter if you few buttons, you've been able to make that. You can actually change your voiceover, so Siri speaks in a different way. You can change your speaking rates and all of that sort of thing as well if you really want to. Okay, so again, all of these different options are there in your iPads for you to use. Okay, I'm just going to show you one extra thing. Okay, so very, very quickly, we showed you Apple Classroom, and I'll just jump back onto that for a second, just to show you just one more thing. So I'll just put this back up on my screen. Give me 2 seconds. I just need to pull my other iPad back up because it went to sleep. Okay, so again, here's my other iPad. There we go. So literally, if I go back to Apple Classroom, you'll see that this device is on there. So Apple Classroom is just an app that we can actually use. Okay, once it's set up, you can actually join your students into here. Okay, and that's something that we can actually go through with you if it's something you really want. Because again, this is a free app for you. Okay, so again, you can actually open up different devices. You can open up different things in there. You can lock them. We can actually do groups and certain things in here. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to open up what's an app called Showbie. Now, I'm sure Matt will talk more about Showbie down the line, but I just want to show you what this can actually do. Now, Showbie is a free app. Okay, you can use the free version of this. Now, especially at this time with blended learning and so onwards, there is a real need to be able to use your devices away from home, away from school. So again, you can actually use this sort of thing. If I actually look, I've got my teacher device. I've actually got my student device. Oops, for some reason that's jumped off. Okay, I've got my teacher device. I've got my student device. And we'll pull up again in a second. There we go. So we've got two devices here. Okay, what I'm just going to show you is I'm going to show you a very quick maths test. Okay, so just showing you on the different iPad basics that we've got. I'm going to create on my teacher device here. I'm just going to create on the maths assignment. I'm going to add a new assignment. And I'm just going to literally create a test. So this could be done remotely. Okay, so I'm just going to create a test. Sorry, I spelled it incorrectly there, but I can go back and edit this. Okay, in my shared items here, just to show you very quick, I can add a new document. In here, I can use all of these different papers. Whoops, let's get rid of that so you can see it. I can use all of these different papers here to actually do which version I want. I'm just using a squared paper. I'm just going to press create, and it's going to create a little document for me. And as soon as I've created this document, you see that this document's going to come up through on the maths version here on my student device, and it's already coming to my student as a file that's in here. Okay, so very quickly you can see that these two files are in there. I'm going to tap on the teacher's device. I'm just going to zoom in really quickly, and I'm just going to write in a math sum. So I'm going to use my pens at the top. And if you want to find out more about this, I'm sure Matt will actually do that for you. I'm just going to actually put this in really quick. And I'm just going to put in some answers like such. Okay, so very, very quick sums. If I press done on my teacher device, in a matter of seconds, I've actually created this worksheet. This is going to now change on my student device in a few seconds. It's going to change on my student device. And then we can actually see that my student can now fill this in. If I tap on the student device, I can zoom in on my student device and can put the answers in. Maybe it's using a different pen that fits in with my marking policy and so onwards. So if I just do that really quickly, I can actually put the answers in. Let's just do this really quick. Hopefully I'm getting them right. Okay, so let's just do that. Press done. On my student device, I've done that. And then what I can do is, again, on my teachers, I'm just jumping around from one thing to another to show you this really quick. I can now have a look at my student devices on my no pressure pupil. I've actually got these answers. I can now mark this in a matter of seconds. So very, very quickly, I can mark that they've got all of these questions right. And in a matter of seconds, creating a worksheet, sending it to the students, getting it, students completing it, filling it back in, handing it back in to me, and me marking it. If I want to give a verbal assessment back, I can actually give a verbal assessment back, create a voice note, and we can actually do our marking and feedback policy in a very, very simplistic way. Okay, so that's a very quick, brief introduction to how we can actually use our iPad a little bit more effectively, a little bit more of the basics that maybe we can actually use in there, using things like split screen, using different options in there that maybe so you can have a look at. Okay, I'm going to come off the screen in a second because obviously I'm conscious of time and not taking up too much of your time because we said this would be about an hour if I'm right, Matt. And we're coming up to around about that sort of time. So I'm going to stop presenting.
Ricky?
Yep.
Yeah, I just wondered if you mind, we had a few people just missed the first part. If you just run through the basic Apple Classroom again.
Yeah,
okay,
no
just, you know, with how you look at student screens, lock it down, etc.
No problem at all. I will do that. I'll just show my screen again. Present now, that one. Okay. Hopefully you're still seeing the right screen. Are you still seeing my computer screens? My iPad screens? Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so just to show you again on that one, I've got, like I said, this bright coloured one is actually my my student device. This one is on the other side is my teacher device. Okay, so Apple Classroom is this app here. Okay, so literally I go into Apple Classroom. I'll just end this class. I go into my Apple Classroom. You set up your own class. Now, if you want to set up a new class, you can just...
Ricky,
yeah,
we can't see the screen.
Wait a second. Let's do this. Let's just jump it across to here. This Google Classroom isn't letting me see every single screen. Wait a second. Let me do that one.
No worries.
Right, is that showing you the right screen now? Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so on my Apple Classroom, if I go in and press the add button, you can create a brand new class. So we can call this Inglewood RDC. So we could call a new Inglewood RDC class, and it's as simple as that. We can then invite students. The students then get a different code. Okay, so just showing you it right from the very beginning. I can then go to settings on here, and the student will get this classroom version. If they tap on the classroom version, they can add this new class. And all they need to do is add on this number. Okay, so 6970. I can add that, and then they become into this teacher version here. I can press add, then now in my class. That's how quick this is to actually set up. So it isn't actually really difficult. It's really easy to actually set up, create a class, get your students to actually join in, and now they're in that class. Okay, so what we were saying before was in here, one of the big problems is not being able to see what's on the screen. So what I'm going to do is just actually show you that if we go into, again, if we go into a different app, let's go into this time, let's go into Swift Playgrounds. If I go into Swift Playgrounds here on my student device, I can see that this student device has already gone into Swift Playgrounds because I can see the icon that's actually on here. So I know that that student's maybe is not doing what I want them to do. So what I can actually do is say, okay, well, wait a second, you're not on the right app, but let's have a look at what you're on. So across the top here, I have a screens button. I can tap that screens button and I can see that student device. So here I can see the student's device. At the moment, it's really small. If I zoom in and just pinch this side over here, I can see a little bit bigger. If I want to see even bigger than that, I can actually tap the student device, press view screen, and I can see a full screen version of that student device. So before I even do anything, no matter what that student does, if he wants to move around to different pages and so on, you can see that moving at the bottom, I can see exactly what's happening on there. So it's not a major issue for me to actually know that my students are on task. Or maybe I know that they've actually done something wrong, so therefore I can go and have a look and help them out with it. What I can also do in here, just to give you a very quick brief across the top, I can press the open button and I can put them into an app. So literally press open, puts them into an app. I'm actually very quickly getting all of my students onto the same thing. So I can get 30 students onto the right device, because I know one of the big issues is when you're actually doing this in a classroom is getting every child to find the right app. Okay, so that's a very quick, it normally takes ages to do that. So maybe I can do that. The other thing you can actually do on this one is at the bottom of that, it says lock in app after opening. Okay, so maybe you've got Times Tables Rockstars and that's an app that's on your iPad. So what you can actually do is you can put them on Times Tables Rockstars. Make sure you tap this one, lock in app after opening, press the Times Tables Rockstars. It's going to open them into that app and they can't come out of it until you are ready to allow them out of it. They can't go into another app. You can lock them into it. So that's just a really nice thing. If I press hide, it just takes them back to the desktop screen. You've got your lock button, which actually locks the device. You've got a mute button. Okay. The other thing that's really nice in here, just to show you one extra bit, is if this is the page I wanted each one of my children to be on, if I'm actually on my teacher device, I can press this share icon, which is the square and the little arrow at the top right hand corner. I can press that one. I can also press airdrop. And because I've created this Apple Classroom group, I can press this Apple Classroom group and it's going to open up all of my 30 devices onto the same web page. Now, I know that if you do that in classrooms at the moment, you put the URL on the board, it takes children ages to actually find that web page. That is done in a matter of seconds to actually just click on share, put the airdrop on, tap your classroom, and all 30 devices will kick into the right web page. So really, really quickly, you can get them onto the app that you really want to. So just showing you that again. Maybe I'm going to go to a different website. So let's go to bbc.co.uk this time. So I'm going to go to this page. I'm going to press the share button again, the square with the little arrow on at the top. Press that one. I'm going to press airdrop. I'm going to press the class, and it's going to open up on my student device. Really, really quick, really, really easy. So again, Apple Classroom is really, really powerful to let you do loads of different things, and it's free. But it's the first thing that I set up on a classroom. When I walk into a class, first thing I put on, I can actually then manipulate all of the devices from then onwards. Okay, so really quick, easy, I can actually do that. Does that cover that for you, Matt?
I think so. It's really difficult to go Apple Classroom without being in a class and show the power it has when you're locking apps down for kids, sending them to websites and being in control. It might be useful if tomorrow I take